You're listening to the Gambling Gauchos, part of the Stake in the Plains Content Network, and the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football podcast feed. Just a couple of casino caballeros talking Texas Tech, betting on the Big 12 and beyond. Now, here's Kyle Jacobson and Rob Bro, live from the Cardinal Sports Center studio.
Welcome to the Gambling Gauchos. I'm Rob Bro. He's Kyle Jacobson. Live in the Cardinal Sports Center studio, part of the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football feed. I am very excited to get my new Dave Campbell's magazine. It usually goes to the station. I'm going to have to see if I fix the address where I get that I'm not at the station anymore. Anyways, Cardinal Sports Center is gearing up for their biggest sidewalk sale of all time coming up in July. Get out there right south of the loop, outside the loop, as we say in Lubbock, on Slide Road. Kyle, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. First comment we're getting is over under 3.5, the number of times Kyle silently laughs to himself when he disagrees with a Rob take. Like that.
Hammer the over.
Well, we already at 1.
Over on me giving you a compliment on your hat. That is a nice lid. Swing your sword. And I think you wanted to open the show by honoring the Pirate, because I don't know if we ever acknowledged his Texas Tech Hall of Fame announcement from maybe last week.
We acknowledged, but we were talking to the West Virginia folks, and I don't think we ever got into it. Just a quick statement on that. I love that he's going in to the Hall of Fame, the Ring of Honor. It's the Hall of Fame. I love that he's going into the Hall of Fame, coaches and players both. I think it's understated how impactful he was, and I think it's understated how impactful Cliff Kingsbury was with Mike Leach. I very much enjoy that they're doing those two together. I think if anybody can speak to Mike Leach's greatness, it is Cliff Kingsbury, and he can speak from it from two sides. It's really hard to be a coach here, and he was also a player, a great player who broke a bunch of records. I think he had 39 school records by the time he left. So just really cool that both of those guys are going in together.
Agreed. One note on Cliff Kingsbury that it always sticks out to me. I think people forget how bad the offensive line was his first year starting under Leach. And, I kind of hated this when he was coach here, but even Tech fans would, from my perspective, pile on with the Coach Bro stuff and kind of like to paint him as this like pretty boy, surfer boy. But he was tough as nails. Like, he got beat up. He was a skinny quarterback, and he took a beating, and all he did was kind of help reshape the identity of this program and totaled 100 career touchdowns, most of those through the air, obviously. And maybe he was overshadowed a little bit by all the guys who put up insane numbers after him. So I think it's a very worthy honor for Cliff Kingsbury from his playing career here. I think everybody can agree his coaching career didn't go as well as we'd all hoped. But even if he never coached a game here, he, I think, should be selected based on merit as a player, even without any of the coaching considerations. And then my thought on Leach, it's unfortunate. We kind of alluded to this on the episode after he passed away last year. Obviously, kind of the elephant in the room is where he and his family left things with the university before he departed. And, I said something to the effect of, like, I think anytime somebody passes sooner than expected, there's this sense of, like, well, I wish I had made amends here. I wish I would have cleared the air on this or that. And so it was unfortunate, like, some people's minds immediately went to that conflict and that dispute, how to resolve it. It's like, well, if we can just set that aside while we're trying to honor a guy for an incredible career, an iconic career in the sport of college football, that would be nice. Like, it would be it'd be nice to honor him without immediately having those same debates that we've had for nearly 15 years now. And so no matter what side of that people are on or what their perspective of previous Texas Tech administrations might be, I hope that they can set that aside, especially on the whatever game day they choose to honor him, and they can just celebrate his career. So very worthwhile honor for both Coach Kingsbury and Coach Leach. And I think even before any of Coach Leach's health issues, you said that it would be appropriate to honor him in some kind of Hall of Fame, Hall of Honor, Walk of Fame, and even alluded to the stadium renovations going on. If they could create an area for that, to recognize coaches and maybe name it after Mike Leach. So who knows if something additional like that is in the works. I think that would be appropriate too, but this is certainly a great first step.
Yeah, and it's I believe the Houston game is when they're going to do it. So that'll be good. And that segues us to the bottom of the conference, which I have Houston near, not at the bottom. But this is something we're going to do. This is an official Big 12 conference media poll. Just a couple of Big J journos here. Kyle, you've made it. You're going to be at Media Day, so I don't think you can jab me with Big 12 Media Day, Big J journo jabs anymore. You're in the boat, man. You're going to sit at a press conference, and you've made it.
Yeah, all I need is a lanyard at Media Days that I can flash at people. So next time I'm like at the grocery store or something, and somebody maybe cuts me off for the last box of Kraft mac and cheese, I'm like, hey, do you know who you're dealing with here? This is an official media pass. I voted in the preseason Big 12 poll. Thank you very much. So I when you forwarded me this email with the ballot, I was like, did they mean to send this to us? Like, do they know who we are, what we do? And then my wife kind of put two and two together, actually. She was like, well, it's probably because of y'all's affiliation with Dave Campbell's that y'all get some credibility here. So we're honored to be a part of this. We take it seriously on one hand in terms of the thought we put into this. However, I see some AP voters, some Heisman voters that are super secretive, take it too seriously, in my opinion. And so we want to be transparent. We want to have fun with this. And so you and I have not compared any notes on who our all Big 12 players are, players of the year, 1 through 14. We're going to hash it out live and come to a compromise. Might be some give and take. And this is going to be before all of our viewers and listeners so that they know exactly what went into this. And I think we're probably pretty unique in that we will read the YouTube comments as we go live here. And if a listener or a viewer makes a good point that is worthy of consideration, we will take that into account before setting anything in stone. So I hope we do this in a way that's fun and a little bit different than how other folks fill out their ballot. And we'll publish this on Twitter and everything once it's all said and done so that it's out there for the world to see. And we'll be accountable for it at the end of the season.
One note, if you're watching on Twitter, we don't see those comments. So come over to YouTube. If you're watching live on Twitter, the streaming software we use, we don't see the Twitter comments. So come over to YouTube if you're on Twitter, and you can comment there and we can see your comments. All right. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Number 14 in the Big 12, the last place team. I am not trusting the climb. It is West Virginia, 14th for me.
Okay, so right off the bat here, we're going to have some stuff to iron out.
No.
I have West Virginia 10th.
10th?
Yeah, that's not some ringing endorsement, but that's substantially higher than 14th.
Okay, give me your 14 through 10.
I've got Houston at the very bottom.
Okay.
I'll go into justification or rationale after that. I've got Cincinnati 13. I've got Iowa State 12, BYU 11, and West Virginia 10.
Okay, so my 14 through 10, West Virginia 14, Houston 13, BYU 12, Cincinnati 11, Oklahoma State 10.
Okay, Oklahoma State is 9th for me, so we're not too far off there.
Okay.
You have Iowa State 9th or better?
Yes.
Okay.
But I would venture to bring them down because I just noticed I don't have any of them on my All Big 12 team. So I wouldn't be opposed to bringing them down to 9 or 10.
I think I only have one Iowa State guy. Now that you mention it, so here's some of my reasoning. West Virginia, they have the toughest non-conference of anybody in the Big 12, and so when they start conference play against Texas Tech at home, they will have been battle tested against two teams that would be middle of the Big 12 or top of the Big 12, Penn State and Pitt. I think there's something to be said for that. I mean, you look at OU's non-con, their first test of the season is going to be a neutral site against preseason favorite Texas. Two totally different stories there. As you know, I'm a believer in Garrett Green, assuming he gets named the starting quarterback, which we're not going to put anything past your favorite head coach.
if they lose to Penn State and Pitt, Neil Brown is not going to be coaching in the Big 12.
You might be right, yeah.
So now Bob Huggins might have bought him some time because they might not want to do a full makeover back-to-back here. And they could be doing a basketball search all football season. I don't know. But so you had Houston at 13?
I have Houston at 14. They're losing Clayton Tune, a guy who started a lot of games, was a good quarterback for them. They're losing their best running back. They're losing Tank Dell. They're losing that guy who sacked us 6 times in Lubbock last year. So it's I don't know. I see no returning production. I see a coach that's checked out. I see a team making a transition to a Power 5 that looks, in my eyes, less equipped than the other newcomers to make that transition. And it was hard to put anybody below them.
Okay. So I'll concede with 14 at Houston because I have them at 13. You have them at 14.
Okay.
I'm hard pressed at putting West Virginia at 12 or lower.
Okay.
Will you consider that?
Yeah. So I'll explain some other. So I had Iowa State at 12. I'm willing to move them up because I do think there's upside there. I like Matt Campbell as a coach. I think that they have certain players that could make a leap this year. Hunter Deckers, Jarrell Brock. But with this gambling thing, and I don't want to put, unsubstantiated rumors out there, but I think it's pretty well circulated by now that some of the guys that were expected to be major contributors for them are caught up in this gambling thing. And so is that going to be a season-long suspension? Are they going to miss Big 12 action? Is it a one-game slap on the wrist? I don't know. And so that uncertainty kind of led me to put them lower than I would if none of that gambling thing was hanging over.
Okay. How do you feel about Iowa State at 10?
I could probably go with you there.
That kind of splits the difference where we have them because I have them up at 7.
Okay, so what are you doing with Cincinnati and BYU?
Cincinnati and BYU 11 and 12 on my list.
Okay, I've got Cincinnati 13, BYU 11. So if we slot West Virginia at 12, is that what we agreed to do?
We could do that.
So who do you want to put 13th? Is Cincinnati okay with you?
Yes.
Okay.
I always spelled Cincinnati wrong.
It's tough.
Is it 2 N's or 2 T's?
2 N's, 2 T's, yeah.
I think I got it right.
Okay, and then so what do we have at 10 and 11 here?
So we got to put BYU in there at 11 and Iowa State at 10, or do you want to flip those two?
So I had BYU 11, Iowa State 12. It's not a huge difference at this point. I think BYU, BYU is going to be a tough road environment for a lot of teams to go into. So I don't feel too strongly either way on which one's 10 or 11. We can do that however you want.
All right, bottom 5, you looking there?
Yeah.
All right, next 5.
I think that's fair, and I think that pretty closely mirrors some of the Vegas odds. I think all these teams are 4.5 or 5.5 win teams. If we could pull that up to reference, that'd be nice. Do you want me to search for that real quick?
Search for what?
The Big 12 win totals?
Oh, yes. Yeah, if you could.
Yeah, let me find that real quick.
And then I'll read you my next 5. So I have Kansas at 9, Oklahoma State still on the board for me at 10, UCF 8, and then I had Iowa State 7. TCU would be 6 for me. I am not firm on TCU at all, and I'm not firm on UCF at all. I'm actually kind of staunch on Kansas. I could move Kansas up.
So
And Oklahoma State, now that I was looking at some of what they have coming back on defense, even though they lost a lot, I would be open to moving Oklahoma State up quite a bit.
all right, before we get ahead of ourselves in that, do me a favor. Next to Houston, put 4.5.
Okay.
Houston and Cincinnati both 4.5, actually. West Virginia also 4.5. BYU 6, and Iowa State 5.5. So only some slight variance to this point.
Okay.
Okay, so my next three, I had Oklahoma State 9, I had Kansas 8, and Baylor 7. I'm with you on the Oklahoma State defense. I think that they've got some playmakers there. I also think that there's a credible argument to be made that Alan Bowman is not a top 11 or 12 starting quarterback in this league. And so I think that limits their ceiling substantially.
I think Alan Bowman's a top 8 quarterback in this league.
There's no way.
Coming back, he was when he was here.
Okay, I'm going to name guys that no hesitation I would take over Alan Bowman real quick. Just no particular order.
All
Ewers, yes.
Yeah.
Gabriel,
Sure.
Will Howard,
Well, yeah.
Jalen Daniels.
Uh-huh.
Those four, I think. Oh, how about John Rice Plumlee from UCF?
No.
You wouldn't take him over Alan Bowman?
Not like for sure. He's a runner.
He was in a starting lineup last season, which is more than Alan Bowman can say.
He was at Michigan. Plumlee would have been starting at Michigan.
Alan Bowman couldn't definitively beat out Henry Colombi on one of the worst Texas Tech teams I've ever seen.
He was hurt. Hunter Deckers. I'll keep going. Chuck.
These next group are guys that I would probably take with like a minimal hesitation. Shuck, Deckers, Green. It's just like based on upside. Donovan has a higher ceiling than Alan Bowman. You've got to be kidding me.
I mean, Mike Craven doesn't even think that Donovan Smith's going to start at Houston.
I saw Donovan play last year, and I know it was better than what I saw. Other than Alan Bowman tearing it up versus Lamar with Antoine Wesley and Cliff Kingsbury calling plays.
Yeah.
Alan Bowman is not a top 10 quarterback in this league.
I'm high on Brennan Presley, too.
Yeah, he's a good receiver, but, like, can Alan Bowman get the ball to him more than 5 yards down the field?
Is Alan Bowman better than Taylor Cornelius?
No.
He beat him.
His team beat him, yeah.
Okay. I'm being a little bit facetious on Alan Bowman, but
I think I would not be surprised. I think it's more likely that Alan Bowman is the worst starting quarterback in the Big 12 than it is that he's top half. I mean, do you not remember the COVID year?
yes,
He stunk.
he was hurt.
He was not hurt. He was supposed to be back from his injuries.
His ankle was hurt.
Oh, my gosh.
He had that ankle lung disease.
I
think you just threw me off by saying 13th. I mean, I think he's a top 10 quarterback in the league.
I mean, I can't tell you right now who Cincinnati's starting quarterback is. Every other guy, Keaton Slovis at BYU, every other guy I'm taking over Alan Bowman. It's just a matter of, do I hesitate for like 0 seconds or for a half a second?
Okay. I'm just a little higher on Alan Bowman.
Okay. Is he on your all Big 12? Is he your quarterback?
No, but I think we do have different quarterbacks based on what we were just talking about.
I can be persuaded to move Oklahoma State up from 9th, but I think they have a pretty hard ceiling with Alan Bowman as their quarterback.
I have him at 10th. I'll stay with him at 9.
Okay. I agree with you though. I think defensively they've got some pieces there.
What's their win total?
Good question. Oh, for a second, I saw 9.5. That was Oklahoma. Oklahoma State 6.5.
Okay. So 8. I have UCF, but I still have Kansas on my board.
So my next 3 now that Oklahoma State is off the board, I've got Kansas 8, Baylor 7, UCF 6th. And I think that honestly a lot of those are pretty fluid.
I would be completely okay with Kansas and then UCF and then Baylor.
In ascending order, like 8, 7, 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Like I said, I think those are really close, kind of splitting hairs. So are you still not sold on Leipold and the Jayhawks? I know you were kind of skeptical last year. What are your thoughts on them going into this season?
No, I think they can absolutely win 6 games. And in college football, I know you have 9 conference games in the Big 12, but you also get 3. And a lot of teams can win 4 conference games. I think it's going to be that way in the Big 12 this year. I think West Virginia, Houston, and Cincinnati are going to struggle in the Big 12. They might win 1 or 2. And then there's going to be 6 or 7 teams that win 4 or 5 Big 12 games. And then only a couple that win, 8, if any. So I think it's going to be a really, really muddled middle. And again, you're flipping coins for a bunch of these middle teams.
True. Yeah, I see a lot of 7 and 5 potential, like right in the middle of what we just discussed, and the Vegas win totals would reflect that. I see a comment that's a lot of respect for Kansas. It is. They were a really, really good offensive team with Jalen Daniels healthy last year. They might have a top 3 in the conference trio of quarterback, running back, number 1 receiver. And so I know the defense is probably still lagging behind, but I think they're going to be really competitive with a lot of teams and put up good numbers on the offensive side of the ball. So it is a lot of respect, but I think they've kind of earned it at this point.
Kansas might have a top 4 secondary in the Big 12. I think Kansas has a really good quarterback, one of the best, if not the best, running backs in the Big 12. And as you alluded to, a pretty good wide receiver 1. Yes, they have depth issues, but I think they can go 7 and 5 or 6 and 6. Now, I think they'll still struggle in the trenches? Yes, but so is Texas Tech offensively recently. I think they're going to take a step, but yeah, people do not agree with the Kansas take right now.
I can back it up. I mean, so I saw another comment on there that Jalen Daniels is the only good player. They've got an offensive lineman that is going to be on some of these preseason Big 12 watch lists. Devin Neal ran for 1,000 yards last year on less than 200 carries.
He's the only returner with 1,000 yards.
Yeah. So, like, Jalen Daniels isn't the only good player. They've got, again, I'm not saying that their defense is great, but they've got other dudes besides Jalen Daniels. And even when he was out, they did pretty okay with Jason Bean. Like, they were still moving the ball, putting up numbers.
And again, 8th in the Big 12 could be 7 and 5.
Yeah.
It's not like we're picking them to win 9 games here.
Yeah, so their win total 6.5. So I can see them going 6 and 6, 7 and 5 very easily. UCF is 6.5. This is all, by the way, according to DraftKings Sportsbook as of May 5th. So these might have moved a little bit. Baylor is 7.5. So we're still tracking pretty close here to go and chalk with Vegas.
I had Baylor at 5, full disclosure.
Okay. So, all right, we're in the top 5 now. It is down to the nitty-gritty.
TCU is my 5, and I don't think I'd put them any higher.
I'm close. I've got TCU 4th, Texas Tech 5th.
I'll put Texas Tech over TCU and own that one.
And I tried to be logically consistent here. When we get to the top, there's going to be some beat the champs to be the champs kind of philosophy. So same deal. I know TCU lost a lot. They also went 12-0 in the regular season last year. And sure, tons of question marks on if they can replace some of that production that got them there. But I don't know if I'm comfortable putting an 8-5 team that lost to them head-to-head last year over them in the preseason predictions. Of course, I'm rooting for that as a fan of Texas Tech, but that was my justification for how I went 4-5.
I'm comfortable. Do you want a paper, rock, scissors here, or are you comfortable with my staunchness?
No, let's do it how you've got it. TCU 5th, Texas Tech 4th. Win totals, TCU 7.5, Texas Tech 7.5.
There you go. 1, 2, 3. Hit them with me.
I've got Emaw, Texas, and Oklahoma.
Oklahoma at 1?
No, Oklahoma at 3. Sorry, I got Kansas State as preseason number 1, Texas number 2, Oklahoma number 3.
All right. Oklahoma number 3, I'm down. If they had any other schedule, I would have them much lower. But that schedule is, they play 6 of the bottom 7.
Cakewalk.
It really is. And then they play Texas, who I guess we're going to have 1 or 2 here.
At a neutral site.
They don't play Texas Tech. They don't play Baylor, I don't think. So, yeah. I have that schedule up. I have the whole Big 12 schedules I can pull up. I forgot about that.
Oklahoma's win total is 9.5.
All right. So you have Texas at 2.
Yes.
I've got them at 1. Defending champs get the honor of the benefit of the doubt here.
That's basically it for me. Texas, the odds-on favorite to win the conference. If we were going chalk with Vegas odds, they would be number 1. They're the most talented team in the conference. However, those 2 pieces of the puzzle, if you will, is almost always true for Texas. Like when Oklahoma has a stacked team, maybe they're picked second in the conference, but they're always just as talented, if not more talented than everybody. Picked to have the highest win total, picked to have the best odds to win the conference, and they never do. So same deal. Kansas State wins the trophy in Arlington last year. They beat TCU, who won 13 games, including a neutral site win over Michigan. And it's hard for me to go, okay, yeah, 5-loss Texas, because the media hype train is rolling, we're going to leapfrog you over the defending champs. Kansas State lost their 2 best players. They lost other guys beyond that. They've got a lot to prove as well, just like TCU. But if the gap was like, if I had a 11-2 Oklahoma right behind Kansas State last year, and I felt like OU's returning production was better, I'm comfortable putting them ahead. But putting a 5-loss Texas team over the defending champs, just because Kansas State has some returning production to prove, is too big of a leap for me. I do think Texas is talented. I think they're a real threat to win the conference. Whenever we get to that point in the offseason, Rob, where we make our futures picks, I would probably heavily consider Texas. But this is partially a respect for what has been done in the past. It's partly respect for Chris Kleiman, who's done something Steve Sarkisian has never done in his head coaching career, which is win 10 games in a season. And so I don't think that they're actually likely to finish ahead. But my philosophy in filling out this ballot was to respect what they accomplished last year and say to myself that a 5-loss team has not earned the right to jump them before any games are played.
I'm down with Kleiman over Sark. I am. And I kind of forced the Texas Tech over TCU thing, so I'll let you have the Kansas State over Texas.
Okay.
I'll be that bigger man there.
So you don't trust the climb, but you trust the climbing?
I trust the Kleiman, yeah.
All right. Texas 9.5, Kansas State 8.5. So we are putting a team a full game behind the Vegas win totals over the second and third place teams. I don't think it's outlandish, though. I think it can be defended. I would be surprised if Kansas State is number 1 when this ballot is tabulated. I think it'll be Texas or Oklahoma, but I'm comfortable with our justification if you are.
I am. All right, let's go to defense. You want to start with the defensive line?
Well, before we get there, do you know what else is easy to justify, Rob?
How good Rahino barbecue is.
That's right. Hit them up at Rahino BBQ on social, RahinoBBQ.com. You can order ahead to make sure that your delicious barbecue is there when you arrive. Hit them up out in Olton. I think the mobile food truck is maybe under construction right now, but if you follow them on social, they'll have the food truck schedule posted. You can't miss when you go there. It's all good. Brisket, ribs, turkey, burgers, jalapeno poppers, and they're always coming up with new special menu items. We appreciate Rahino Barbecue support of the Gambling Gauchos.
Always. All right, defensive line, the big boys. They
eat a lot of Rahino, and they deserve it. So an interesting deal here. There's 5 spots for the D-line. There's no specification on edge, nose tackle. So what I did, Rob, I have my top 5, and I have others that I'm kind of honorable mention status that I might be willing to work in if you can persuade me. but I put 2 interior guys and 3 more end or edge guys. Not that matters. If I thought the 5 best were nose tackles, I probably would have done that. But that was kind of my philosophy going in, trying to get 5 defensive linemen.
I went beef.
Okay.
I went a lot of interior.
Okay.
Do you want to each have one that we just get on the defensive line since there's 5 and then kind of quibble over the final 3?
Let me see here. Maybe if you pick a guy that I've got 5 that I feel pretty strongly about.
Okay. Dante Corleone.
He's on my list.
All right. He's mine.
The Godfather. The other one, I don't think you'll argue with me here. I've got paired with Dante Corleone on the interior, Jalen Hutchings.
Everybody gets to see me struggle with Cincinnati. Should have made you type.
Yeah. You're
Yes.
assuming I'd be any better.
Jalen Hutchings also on my list.
And that's not a homer pick. Like, you'll see, I don't pick a ton of Texas Tech guys, but he's very much earned that. His hype is widespread among a lot of people that cover college football. I think he's certainly one of the 2 or 3 best interior linemen in this conference.
All right, so I have one more interior. It sounds like you have 3 edge rushers. My final interior guy is T'Vondre Sweat from Texas. He has played in 45 Big 12 games. He started 9 games last year, and that's just because, hey, what package are we starting in today? He played a ton and was an absolute beast, second team All Big 12 last year.
He was not on my radar.
Honorable mention, I think, actually.
He was not on my radar. I've got 3 more that I had.
355.
Do what?
He's 6'4", 355.
Big boy.
All right, so let me see if you have the other 2 that I have. Ethan Downs of Oklahoma.
Do not have him.
And then Ricky Barber, UCF.
Do not have him. I have somebody else from UCF.
Okay, do you have the other edge rusher from UCF?
I've got Tremont Morris Brash from UCF.
I'm in with him. So I think UCF deserves a player on there, and that's my player. I just kind of flipped the coin between those 2.
Yeah, let me pull up his stats real quick because it's impressive. And what I tried to do, it was tough. Yes. Tremont is the Tremon, Morris Brash. It's hard to judge guys that played an American Athletic Conference schedule last year. What I tried to do is take maybe 75 or 80% of their stats and project that to the Big 12. But last year he had 52 tackles, 13 for a loss, 6 sacks. I think that would translate into all Big 12 numbers. He's a 4-year player. He's capitalizing on a COVID year, so a ton of snaps, ton of starts. I feel good about him.
I want to reference the comments here. Tony Bradford is getting disrespected. What makes Hutchings better than Bradford? The stats. I mean, Bradford is very good. He's just a different type of player.
Yeah.
He's a block eater. He does his job. He's very good. But Hutchings is a better interior defensive lineman than Tony Bradford is.
Yeah,
They're both great.
Yeah, people that are semi-pro scouts would tell you that. PFF grades tell you that. Tony Bradford's a good player. A lot of really good players aren't going to make this list. I think Bradford would probably be on like a second-team ballot for me. But if I had to choose one or the other, and if we're not going to put half of this roster as Texas Tech guys, which I don't think would be appropriate, then some tough decisions have to be made.
I would fight for Downs to be on the list. He was all Big 12 second team last year at 13.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, and 9 hurries last season.
You want to can I tell you the 2 guys I have remaining?
Yes.
I've got Barron Sorrell from Texas. Last year, 10 starts as a sophomore, 9.5 TFLs, 5 sacks. So I think pretty close to the stat line you just mentioned. And then I've got Colin Oliver from Oklahoma State, who had a little bit of a down year last year, but I think he was like freshman All-American.
Yes, Big 12 freshman of the year in 2021. I have him at linebacker.
See, I had him at linebacker initially, and then everywhere he's listed as defensive end.
Is he?
I moved him to defensive line. I had him on my linebacker list initially, and I had to I had to bump somebody out of the D line because he's listed at defensive end everywhere that I've seen.
Okay, I had him at linebacker, so I'm down with Colin Oliver.
Okay. So we're between Barron, Sorrell, and then you've got one or two guys you want to make a case for. I'm going to pull up Sorrell's stat line just so we can compare apples to apples here. He's probably one that of the five that I've mentioned, he's probably the one I feel least strongly about. So I'm good to compromise on this with you.
Well, here's my deal on downs. I don't have another Oklahoma player on the list.
That's fair. I don't think I have a single OU guy. Maybe a couple that are like in the discussion. So I'm actually fine with that because we will get roasted if we don't have anybody from OU on here.
Yeah. So let's go Ethan Downs.
Yeah. Good call.
All right, linebacker Jalen Ford.
Yes.
Okay. When do you want to say defensive player of the year? Do you want to do it when we come across them, or do you want to do it at the end?
We can do it at the end.
Okay. Foreshadowing.
Yeah, but yeah, I have Jalen Ford too for that. So. I'm trying to find. Okay. So this was actually tough. So I had Jalen Ford. The next two I feel good about. The fourth guy I had on my list was like right there. So I'll just read you what I have. I've got Jason Johnson from UCF. Last year, 126 tackles as a transfer from Eastern Illinois. So a guy who's used the portal to move up a level. Really experienced player. I think this is his fifth year. First team All-American Athletic Conference last year. Hard to ignore that stat line, 126 tackles and the experience there. Another guy I had was Kendall Daniels from Oklahoma State. I think he was actually the freshman All-American in 2021. Took a little bit of a step back last year, but really flashed.
2022. So he was all fresh. He was freshman Big 12 Player of the Year last year.
Okay.
And I have him at safety.
Okay.
It's one of those linebacker safety roles, though.
Yeah. Yeah, this is tough. Who did you have at linebacker? I guess let's go there.
Linebacker, I have the other two I had were Johnny Hodges at TCU, and then I had Colin Oliver. But I am down with the UCF guy because I also looked at him.
Okay. The guy that if we're going to move Kendall Daniels to safety, the guy that would have slotted in third for me is Max Tooley from BYU. He's battled injuries, so his total stat line doesn't quite compare to some of these other guys. But let me read you what he does have, because I think like if you imagine him being healthy for 10 or 12 games, what he might be able to do. This is another guy taking advantage of a COVID year, so this will be his 6th season of college football. He has in his career 219 tackles, 12.5 for loss, 2 sacks, 6 interceptions, 2 of which he returned for a touchdown. He's got 6 passes defended, a fumble recovery, a forced fumble, and last season's stat line, he had 3 picks in just 7 games. So he's a linebacker that apparently does well in coverage, but also, eats his fair share of tackles. So I had him right on the cusp. It was hard for me to not include him in the 3, but if we're moving Kendall Daniels to safety, he would have been my next one as an all Big 12 linebacker.
Johnny Hodges not on your list?
No, I do not have Johnny Hodges.
Newcomer of the year last year, 87 tackles. Second team all Big 12 last year.
Yeah, he probably deserves a spot.
So you want to go? I'll take Hodges if you want to take the third. Or do you feel strongly about the UCF linebacker?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to balance, being fair to the newcomers while also respecting guys that have already produced at this level. Which I guess I'm down to a UCF and a BYU guy. the only other guy I had kind of close to that conversation was Lee Koba from West Virginia in terms of a returning Big 12 player, but he was behind Max Tooley and Jason Johnson for me. So I guess I'll go with Jason Johnson because that's what I had initially. But I can be talked out of it if you prefer Max Tooley from BYU.
And then Johnny Hodges.
Yeah.
Read the BYU linebacker stat again.
Yeah, so let me pull that up. So last season in 7 games, 57 tackles, 2 for loss, 1 sack, 3 INTs, 2 of those returned for a touchdown. And then his career, which is, let's see here, quick math, 35, 40-ish games, 40, 45 games. He has 219 tackles, 12.5 for loss, 2 sacks, 6 INTs, fumble recovery, forced fumble, 2 passes defended.
All right, comment section, UCF linebacker or BYU linebacker? I think I'm leaning BYU, though.
Okay.
But you're leaning UCF?
I was initially, but I think if this guy had been healthy for 12 games, he probably would have been up there.
Okay. And what was his name?
His name is Max Tooley, Tooley.
I would not have spelled it like that.
Yeah. We got a UCF edge rusher, so
yeah.
This is close though. I mean, I'm putting the other guy in my honorable mention list. I mean, he was right there. That's no disrespect to UCF.
Yeah, we've left off a lot of good players already, obviously.
Yeah, and we're about to have to leave off some really good DBs. I'll say this, because I forgot to mention this at the outset of the defense. I think pass rushers have a huge opportunity to shake up this list. Like, you lost pretty much all your marquee pass rushers from last year. Like, some of the best guys coming back had 5 sacks last year, which is pretty good, but that's not Enudike Uzama or Tyree Wilson type production. So there could be a guy totally not on anybody's radar that has 10 sacks this year and is like immediately first team All Big 12. Defensive back, I feel the exact opposite. I feel like it's loaded. I could put 8 guys as All Big 12 on this list, but we can only pick 5. And one of them apparently plays kind of a hybrid position. I thought he was a linebacker. So we've already got one off the board who was on my linebackers list, and I had 6 DBs, and I was not sure which one to cut, and he wasn't even on that list. So this is going to be tough.
Okay, how do you want to go about this? Do you want me to just start naming the guys I have, and then we can kind of check the ones we both have? Do you want to go first?
I've got 2 guys. I've got 3 guys that I think absolutely have to be on there. So I'll start with those 3 and see what you think about those.
Okay.
I've got Kobe Savage from Kansas State.
Yes.
I've got Bud Clark from TCU.
Okay.
And I've got Kobe Bryant, Cobee Bryant from Kansas.
All right. I have both the Kobe's. Kobe Savage, right?
Bud Clark, I think, is the returning interceptions leader from last season. He had 45 tackles, 5 INTs, and 5 passes defended. The 2 Kobe's had 3 interceptions apiece, just for comparison.
So my final 2 are Malik Dunlap and Aubrey Burks.
I have both of them down, along with TJ Tampa from Iowa State. And those were the ones that it was like splitting hairs for me.
Yeah, TJ Tampa was definitely on my list.
And Rashad Williams, honestly, is not – I think Malik Dunlap is considered the better corner in Lubbock, but production-wise, Rashad Williams is not far off at all.
Man.
Are you comfortable locking in Bud Clark from TCU? I feel like that's got to be pretty automatic. 5 INTs last year.
Is there an either?
No. So we're down to 1. Okay. So do you want me to read you stats real quick? Because I've got the same guys. I've got their stat lines all pulled up.
Okay.
This is from last season only. Malik Dunlap, 33 tackles, 1 INT, 12 passes defended. TJ Tampa, 39 tackles, 1 INT, 9 passes defended. Aubrey Burks, 66 tackles, 1 INT, 2 passes defended. And then if you want to consider Rayshad Williams, 37 tackles, 1 INT, 7 passes defended.
I just feel like there's a lot of safeties on the list, and you need a corner. And I would lean Malik Dunlap.
I think I would too. I'm trying hard not to be biased here. Aubrey Burks, like you're saying, great safety, the best tackler on this list. And TJ Tampa, I thought, like before I started looking up stats from last year, everything, I thought TJ Tampa was going to be like a slam dunk. But last year he had 75% of the passes defended that Malik Dunlap had. So I think it's a justifiable. People might say, "Oh, that's a homer pick. Y'all are Tech fans," but I think that the stats actually back that up. And it doesn't mean TJ Tampa isn't really good. He is, like I said at the outset with Tony Bradford. There's some really good players that aren't going to make this list. So I'm comfortable with Dunlap if you are.
I am. All right, punter. We going another another homer pick here?
Austin McNamara.
All right.
I mean, I think his freshman or sophomore year set the conference record for punt average. He was a freshman All-American. It's his 5th season. I mean, I'm open to discussion if somebody thinks there's a better punter out there, but I don't think there is.
And then you were also in the simpatico mindset that Jalen Ford's the defensive player of the year?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and lock that in too.
Yeah, I didn't really have anybody else, honestly, even on the list. It was a couple of these, and on offense, I'm going to have you help me decide. Like for quarterback, there's only 1 slot. Running back, there's only 2. I had lists of multiple guys. Defensive player of the year is just Jalen Ford.
I put 3 running backs because I don't think there's a true fullback in the Big 12 right now.
I saw Jared Casey listed as a fullback, so I put him.
Yeah, but he is listed as a fullback, yes. I would rather.
I'm with you. I think that's almost a wasted slot for how often there's 4 receivers on the field. Like for there to only be 3 receivers and 1 fullback, I think they should have just made that a wide receiver spot. But
well, they don't list it fullback on the postseason All Big 12. It's AP, all purpose. So they do 3 running backs at the end, but on the preseason they do fullback. And last year it was just 2 tight ends. It was Ben Sinnott and the kid from Texas.
Well, I don't know what you want to do there. I guess we're starting at fullback. I took it literally and I put Jared Casey because I don't even know who else you would put. You could put Jalen Hutchings.
I put If
you know.
I put CJ Donaldson. He's not a fullback at all, but he's 6'2", 240. And he's a short yardage guy.
You know what? Screw it. CJ Donaldson, probably you can't justify putting him at running back, which I'll get to, but I do think he's a really good player and could be an all Big 12 running back at the end of the season. So I'm fine with listing him as the fullback.
All right, let's save quarterback for now. Running back, we already talked about Devin Neal. We're putting him in, yes?
Yes.
Only 1,000-yard returner. And then I have the returning freshman of the year, Richard Reese, as my other running back.
We're close. I had him behind R.J. Harvey from UCF.
Okay, so that's another. He's done it at this level versus he did it somewhere else.
Yeah, so here was my deal with Richard Reese. He had the accolades at the end of last year, under 5 yards per carry, and they lost 3 sixth-year seniors off that offensive line. They don't have a super proven passing game to take the load off of him, and they brought in a transfer running back from Oklahoma State. He might share the load. I think if he has a great season, I have no hesitation putting there in the postseason. I don't know if preseason I would be forecasting that, though, based on all of those factors. R.J. Harvey, for whatever it's worth, last season at UCF, 796 yards, 6.7 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns, also caught 22 balls, 215 yards, 9.8 average. It was close. I had those two guys like right next to each other behind Devin Neal. So I'm willing to go Richard Reese if you are, but that was my line of thinking on it.
Let's leave that one to the comment section again. We're going to Richard Reese or Harvey. Reese or Harvey. All right, wide receiver. My wide receiver 1 is Xavier Worthy at Texas.
Agreed.
Okay. Who's your wide receiver 2?
This one was actually pretty clean cut for me because I made a list of what I thought was good receivers, and 3 kind of stood out, and then I had about 5 that it was sort of splitting hairs. And so I had Xavier Worthy in my top 3. I also had Brennan Presley from Oklahoma State, who we've talked about, and then Jaron Bradley.
All right. I had Brennan Presley at kick returner.
Interesting. I didn't know he returned kicks. I struggled with the kick return.
I don't know that he does either, but I did. I had another receiver in there. I have Matthew Golden from Houston.
Okay.
Trying to get Houston on the list. Granted, that's the main reason. But also, I was really impressed with him last year. And, Kyle, he's all they have. He's going to get a lot of balls his way.
So does that mean you don't want to put Brennan Presley as the 3rd receiver? Who did you have as number 3 there?
Matthew Golden.
Oh, you're talking about you had him at receiver, not at kick returner.
I had him at receiver, and I put Brennan Presley at kick returner.
I'm worried our ballot will be mocked if we put a guy who doesn't return kicks at kick returner.
Well, how do you know who returns kicks right now? That's
well, again, I struggle with this one because Darius Davis from TCU and Malik Knowles from Kansas State would have been like the obvious choices.
Okay.
They're both gone.
Phillip Brooks, is he back?
Good question. I had let me where are my notes here? I had Jaden Nixon from Oklahoma State. He house won versus Baylor last year. And I had Monterey Baldwin.
That's a great name.
From Baylor. He's speedy.
Okay. I'm fine with putting Brennan Presley as the 3rd wide receiver.
Does Matthew Golden return kicks?
Who else?
Let me see if he's got stats logged for kick return. I think I have a Houston offensive lineman. You know what? He does, or he did. He returned 5 kicks last year for 23.2 average.
Good enough for me.
Yeah, I don't feel strongly about Baldwin or the dude from Oklahoma State at kick returner, so I'm good with that.
All right, tight end. There's 2, I think, maybe potentially 3 that could be listed. No, you don't think so?
I think there's 1.
Is it the kid from Texas?
Yeah, Jatavian Sanders.
Okay, read me his stat line.
54 catches, 613 yards. Sennett was about 60% of that on both receptions and yards. I mean, to me, it's pretty clear cut.
He had a 14.4 yard average, which was 4th in the country and led all Big 12 receivers, tight ends. I'm cool with the Texas guy. I really am.
I mean, the average is fine, but if the other guy has 40% more receptions than you have to do that at volume for it to really matter.
Sure. How do you spell that first name?
Jatavion.
What's his last name?
Sanders.
Looking at all these names is confusing me.
I know. Just real quick, the group of 5 I had as kind of honorable mention wide receivers. I had Lawrence Arnold from Kansas, Jordan Whittington from Texas, Javon Baker from UCF. Those 3 were probably the closest. And then I had Monterey Baldwin and Matthew Golden kind of in a second tier of honorable mention.
I would love to say Baylor Cup here, but until we see Texas Tech utilize the tight ends, I can't.
Yeah, there hasn't been enough production there yet.
All right, offensive line. I've got one that I have to have, two that I would like to have. And then I'm pretty wide open on the rest.
I think I've got 2 must-haves. I feel really good about 3 more, but I'm willing to hear you out, of course.
Cooper Beebe?
Yes, he's number 1.
And then Frazier at West Virginia?
He's number 2. Those are the 2 that I would have absolutely refused to leave off of this list.
All right, I did some projecting here. I think Kelvin Banks Jr. is probably my number 3. Do you have him on your list?
I have him on my list at number 3.
Okay. Kyle knows big boys. Oh, no, I'm writing Kyle. Kelvin.
Don't put me on the first team offensive line. That would not end well for anybody.
No.
We're supposed to embrace debate here, and we're like super simpatico.
We're flying through this one. Let's see. Andrew Coker at TCU.
Do not have him on my list.
And then I have Cole Spencer.
That is a homer pick at this juncture. I'm not saying he can't be there postseason.
He was all conference the last time he played.
In what conference?
The last conference he played in.
You've got to slash his production by like 30% from that conference for it to. Okay. And he's coming off a year-long injury, a back injury.
Well, he could have played last year, but they set him because he wanted him back this year.
Look, I'm excited for him. I think he might be your best offensive lineman, but you cannot justify putting him on this list.
I understand. So who are your final 2?
God help me with this pronunciation. I've got Kingsley Suamataia from BYU. He was a freshman All-American last season. No sacks allowed in 12 starts. I think he's legit. He was super highly rated coming out of high school. He started at Oregon and then transferred to BYU. But 12 starts, no sacks allowed.
Give me some spelling there.
Yeah, so you've got Kingsley, Suamataia. If you guess A, you have a 50% chance at getting the next letter right.
Yeah. And then we going Coker, or do you have another one that you want in there?
So I've got Patrick Paul from Houston. 2-time first-team All-AAC. 2-time Dave Campbell's Texas Football All-Texas. So trying to spread the love a little bit. The accolades are there. I haven't watched any film, but I thought he'd be a good fit. But if you want to make your case for TCU's guy, this was the one I was like 5th. He was 5th on my list.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Kicker?
I've got Griffin Kell from TCU.
I've got Bert Auburn from Texas, based on the name alone.
Is he still there?
Is he not?
I don't know.
I
think Griffin Kell made like every single kick last year, so that's why I put him.
All right, I'm down with Griffin Kell.
He's clutch too. That scene in Waco of them running onto the field, season on the line. So hard to put somebody else. As cool as Bert Auburn's name is,
it's like a fake name.
I know.
It's like in a movie you're trying to give a name at the hotel counter to not be known. It's Bert Auburn.
Yeah.
All right. Quarterback. I don't feel strongly about mine. I've got 3 top guys. Do you have Quinn Ewers as number 1?
No.
Okay. Then I think we might have the same guy. Is it Will Howard?
No.
Oh. Then who is it?
So I think those 2 and the 2 I'm about to name are the only ones you can make a credible argument for. As badly as I want to say Garrett Green here, I won't do that. I've been waffling back and forth on this and still don't know which way to go, but I've got Jalen Daniels and Dylan Gabriel.
I'm not doing I'm not doing Dylan Gabriel.
Why not?
He's a bum.
He's a bum.
He's a bum.
Explain.
Eye test.
Eye test?
I don't like him. He's not my quarterback.
Hashtag not my QB.
Hashtag not my QB. I'm not putting him on there.
Eye test?
Eye test. I don't like him. What do you want me to say?
I want you to say he's averaging nearly 9 yards per attempt in his college career.
Don't care.
25-6 touchdown to INT ratio last year.
Don't care.
It's almost 5-1 TD to INT ratio for his career.
If you put Will Howard in all the games last year, he goes 3,200, 30-8. All the dude does is win.
What's Will Howard's completion percentage?
I would take Will Howard to win a game over Dylan Gabriel.
Is Will Howard breaking off 70-yard runs in Norman last year? Like Adrian Martinez did?
Yes, Will Howard could. Maybe not 70. Maybe 55.
Will Howard has thrown 422 passes in his collegiate career. He's failed to complete more than 57% of those.
He's top 10 in Kansas State history.
Let's see. L. Roberson, Michael Bishop, Colin Klein, Jake Waters.
No, completion percentage or like legitimately top 10. Not like or he can enter the top 10 this year by doing some things.
Josh Freeman.
Sure.
He was just stuck with Ron Prince. So here's the deal on Will Howard. The volume isn't there.
Who do you have winning the league?
Who do I have winning the league?
Yeah.
Probably Texas.
Well, you just put Kansas State up there.
Yeah, I explained why.
So Will Howard is the quarterback on that team.
He is. He lost his two best receivers.
Sure.
He lost the most dynamic running back. Well, hit Deuce or Bijan. He lost an extremely dynamic running back.
So I would put Quinn Ewers over Dylan Gabriel.
Why?
Because I don't like Dylan Gabriel. I would compromise with Jalen Daniels. I would. I think he's very good.
Did Dylan Gabriel kiss your girlfriend or something?
No, I just don't like him.
You and David Collier can't stand him.
What's his completion percentage?
60. It's north of Will Howard's, that's for sure. And his A-dot, I bet, is way higher. So, like, he's throwing the ball down the field and completing passes.
But Jalen Daniels was on your list as well?
Yeah, he was my co-number one with Dylan Gabriel.
We don't do co-number ones. This isn't the old Big 12 co.
I told you I was waffling, and I
have
wasn't
one true quarterback.
Dylan Gabriel, 63% last year at Oklahoma.
That's only 6% better.
That's a pretty meaningful difference.
What's Tyler Shuck's completion percentage?
Again, especially with the A-dot. Let me see here. Tyler Shuck.
You could talk me into Tyler Shuck over Dylan Gabriel, too.
I think he's under 60%. Tyler Shuck is. Let me see here. Yeah, So 59.9 last year.
Undefeated.
And let's see. About a yard and a half fewer yards per attempt than Dylan Gabriel, which is significant. That doesn't sound like a lot, but 40 passes over game, that's 60 yards.
So I'm going Jalen Daniels. You down with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I am.
Yes, you froze. You down?
Yes, I'm down with Jalen Daniels. Yes.
That's A-Y-E?
I think it's just Jalon.
That's right. I just remembered how the Kansas fans were spelling it last year.
Yeah, they were like Jalen Daniels for Heisman and couldn't spell it right. So
I can't believe we're listing quarterback and running back number one as Kansas players, and we've got them 8th.
Well, so they had an offensive lineman who I think would have been 6th or 7th on my list, like almost first team All Big 12. What was his name? Mike Nowitzki. He was honorable mention All Big 12 in 2021, second team last year. So he's a credible offensive lineman. Get that comment off the Helen Bowman. Jeez.
Lots of quarterbacks are bus drivers. He's a system quarterback. Yeah.
Jalen Daniels is?
No, Will Howard.
Oh, well, see, I don't know about that, but like I also don't care. So the knock on the guys that he runs the system really efficiently.
I always hate the system quarterback thing.
It's like, oh, it's the system that allowed B.J. Simmons to throw for 8,000 yards. Like, okay, well, great. He still threw for 8,000. Anybody else can run this system if they want.
Yeah. I think Tyler Shuck will be up there. I had Tyler Shuck on my list. Didn't want to be too homer, though.
Jalen Daniels last year, since we were throwing out all these stats, 66% completion after 69 the year before. Nice. 8.8 yards per attempt. That is elite. 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He takes care of the ball. Quarterback rating 162. It's like Booby Miles. And he can pass. He can run, too. 5.5 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns in just 9 games.
Yeah, I'm down with Jalen Daniels.
Okay. And people thought we were a K-State homer podcast.
Our alliances are going to be tested here.
I think we did a good job being honest, and I think that shows in the diversity of teams that these names come from.
Okay.
And I think there was even more diversity on the honorable mention. So I think the only one we're missing, Iowa State.
The only one.
And TJ Tampa was right there. But a lot of good DBs in this conference.
Okay. Let's see. We've got some Kansas hate in the chat.
Let him hate.
All right. So, offensive player of the year. Is it Jalen Daniels?
Or Dylan Gabriel. No, I'm kidding.
I would go maybe Xavier Worthy here.
I think
I mean, if it's Xavier Worthy, it's going to be Quinn Ewers.
If we're valuing pass production, I think it's Xavier Worthy or Devin Neal. If you're asking me to project, if Jalen Daniels is healthy for 12 games, it'd probably be him, or if Quinn Ewers has the kind of season that the hype machine thinks he might, then it would be him. So
my plan was to put the quarterback as offensive player of the year because that's generally how it goes.
That's usually how it goes, yeah.
So
or we could show some love to the O-line. You know, the Fathletes don't get any respect. We can make amends with Email by putting Cooper Beebe as offensive player of the year.
That would be really funny. But I think as a serious Big J Journo duo here, I think we have to stay true to the system and say a quarterback. Or Devin Neal. If he can run for 1,400 yards this year, he'd be in contention as well.
Yeah, and that's if Jalen Daniels is as good as we think he can be, that takes a lot of focus away from Devin Neal, and he can sleepwalk to 1,000 yards. Yeah. And he's a playmaker. I'm not trying to minimize what he's capable of at all. I'm cool with either one, or Xavier Worthy. And
then newcomer of the year. Do you have a list there? I've got one guy.
Who's your guy?
Mike Smith at Baylor.
So I had him on my list, and same train of thought, same type of player. I've got Deshaun McCullough at OU. He's a transfer from Indiana, was a freshman All-American linebacker last year. And so I think Ben Smith, same type of – or Mike Smith or Ben Smith?
Is it Ben Smith? I think it's Mike Smith.
It probably is. Transfer from Liberty, also a linebacker, correct?
Yeah.
Honestly, we're kind of light on OU for how good they're expected to be. That was part of why I went with Deshaun McCullough.
I went the Baylor kid because he's playing that position at Baylor that gets all the stats. Terrell Bernard's position.
Yeah. I don't have a super strong conviction on it one way or the other.
Okay. We'll go Baylor for our Baylor people.
I will say Baylor fans probably the least engaging Twitter fan base. So if that's a factor on this super serious official media poll, then we could consider that.
OU is not super into us either.
They're engaging. They're haters.
All right, that's the list. We've done it. One more look. There's the top 14. Any changes you want to do after we did the other thing?
I don't think so. I think I like it.
Can we move Kansas over anybody?
Yeah, I think, like I said, that section, Baylor, UCF, Kansas, I all had is kind of co-equal. If you want to put Kansas above UCF, I could probably be down with that.
I think we leave it.
Okay.
I think we leave it. Austin Rushing says he's late to the party. Are y'all real media poll voters? That's not a joke. This is the list that's going to get submitted. Yes, this will be submitted tonight.
This is real.
This is real. All right. Final thoughts?
Yeah, we appreciate Barnett, Howard, and Williams' support of the Gambling Gauchos, bhwlawfirm.com. I wonder if any players or coaches could sue us for not listing the right guys here. If they do, that's who we're calling. They don't actually handle cases like that, probably, but they do handle catastrophic injury, workplace injury, criminal defense, certified for Title IX student litigation, one of the only law firms in Texas that is certified for those types of cases. Based in Fort Worth, but they handle cases all across the state of Texas. Barnett, Howard, and Williams. bhwlawfirm.com to learn more. They hope you never need them, but a very solid law firm in your corner if you do. Do we have a mailbag today, Rob?
Let's see. There is a couple of mailbags here. I didn't clear out the last one, so forgive me if it gets a little weird. I'm not going to ask this one. Here's a question from Swamp Donkey that I don't want to get into. Do Texas fans know there's no sand around Lubbock? Dust Aggie or Dirt Aggie would be a better choice. Would Dust Aggie be a better choice?
I was going to say that wasn't a question.
I read it as a statement. It was a question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care what they call us.
Have you ever sucked on a chili dog outside of Tasty Freeze?
No, but that's a pretty good song.
Have you ever had a chili dog from a gas station?
From a gas station? I've had a hot dog, not a chili dog.
Rob, how many of Kyle's goats are you willing to sacrifice for a Texas Tech to win a national championship in football? 0. I don't think I could kill a goat.
Too soon, man. 2 goats died this year already.
It's true. Would you eat goat every day for 2 years if it meant Texas Tech wins a national championship? Just for like one meal?
They didn't specify. It could be one bite of goat.
Yes, I would. Goat is delicious. Bury it in the ground, cook it underground. Start, bench, cut, daily driving, UPS truck, FedEx truck, garbage truck.
Start, UPS, bench, FedEx, cut, garbage truck, unless the Big 12 becomes the FedEx Big 12, then that would rocket to the top of the list.
Absolutely. All right, I think that's all we had this time.
It's pretty weak mailbag, guys.
Well,
this is a call out. This is a call out. We need the mailbag to be better, okay?
Tell him, Kyle.
And if, you know what, I'm sorry it's come to this, Rob, but if the current parlay picadors won't up their game with the mailbag, then we're just going to have to invite new parlay picadors to join us at patreon.com/gamblinggauchos. They would get access to the Discord mailbag, the #1 Texas Tech fan Discord server on the internet, probably. Not aware of any others. Access to exclusive interviews that we do with former players, regents, donors, all kinds of folks. And I think we're in the midst right now of an off-season series where we interview folks that have been around the Lubbock media scene for a long time. So it's always interesting to hear those war stories. So join us, patreon.com/gamblinggauchos, and make the mailbag better than that, because that was pathetic.
Scott, it is Regino, REJINO, ReginoBBQ.com.
Yes.
And Kyle was obviously joking there.
Scott also says, hey, Kyle, you're not going to get fans behind you.
Yeah, because you were slamming them for the mailbag. But
Well,
you were obviously joking.
I'm just calling it like I see it, I owe honesty to the listeners.
All right. That's all we have, I believe.
Do you have any final thoughts?
We could do an extended final thoughts today. I think we've said it all, though. I know that people have been clamoring for a long final thought segment, but an hour 15 so far, I think we're good.
So you don't want me to share any final thoughts?
No, I would love for your final thoughts. You do a great job in it.
I have one final thought, and I'm curious your thoughts on my thoughts. I was reading an article today that the governor of Nevada, he approved, I think, $300 million for that new, I was going to say Oakland A's, but I guess they'd be the Vegas A's stadium. And he said something to the effect of Las Vegas is going to be a sports mecca globally. Like, we're going to be a player in sports. And they just got the Vegas Raiders, brand new stadium. They just got the Vegas Golden Knights a few years ago, Stanley Cup champs. I think they're serious about being a sports epicenter. They used to kind of wear that crown because they were the only place you could sports bet. Now that that's been taken away, they kind of need to take a different angle to it. I think Brett Yormark knows that, and I think Las Vegas needs to be part of the Big 12. Having said that, I don't think UNLV right now is a take. I don't think they should be part of the Big 12. But I'm curious about a couple different strategies. One would be sitting down with UNLV and saying, this is what y'all need to do over the next 5 to 10 years, facilities-wise, attendance-wise, program investment-wise, to potentially earn an invite to the Big 12. Or Brett Yormark needs to form some sort of partnership, whether that's a sponsorship deal or similar, with a large sports book that's based in Las Vegas, and complement that with neutral site games. Those can be non-conference games against UNLV. They can be, Big 12 neutral site games, Big 12 championship games. But I think right now Las Vegas doesn't belong to any of the Power 5 conferences. And I think you should do what you can to capitalize on this momentum. Buy stock in Las Vegas right now. I don't think that's taking UNLV, but you've got to do something to capitalize on the momentum there, especially if you take schools out west and that becomes more in your natural geographic footprint. And so that's what I would, if I was Brett Yormark's advisor or chief of staff or something like that, I would task him with, we need some kind of Las Vegas strategy.
I don't want to be in Vegas. I want to be around Vegas. So I like being around Vegas. I like doing tournaments in Vegas, showcases in Vegas. If they get a baseball stadium, if you could do a Big 12 showcase with schools that aren't playing each other that year, playing in Vegas before the season, if you could do a Big 12, Big 10 baseball showdown in Vegas, I'm down with a lot of that. I'm down with the Big 12, Pac-12 basketball showdown in Vegas. I'm down with football games, football championship games in Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. But I don't want UNLV as part of the Big 12. I don't think that's the natural course of action. I think the natural course of action is to be around Vegas, but not in Vegas.
I agree. And, these Big 10 schools that are now stuck on the West Coast, I bet they would play a non-conference game in Las Vegas. That's one game that they don't have to fly across the country. And so if it's just USC and UCLA, easy trip for their alumni base. If Oregon and Washington are out there, would they want to play a Big 12 school in Las Vegas? BYU, I think, played Arizona in Vegas 2-3 years ago. Wildly successful. BYU fans traveled there. So there is an insane amount of sports momentum in Las Vegas, and I would like to see you get your hands in that. And like I said, I don't think that's taking UNLV, at least not in their current state. 10 years from now, who knows what they look like. But like I said, no power conference right now has a real flag planted in Las Vegas. I think the Pac-12 is the closest to it. Their headquarters are there. But if that conference is going away, then you need to be the one that capitalizes on that.
Thoughts on San Diego State's little pickle they got themselves into?
Oh, like, who's in charge over there? What are you guys doing? I mean, think of how, like, okay, if you're high up in the athletic department or university administration at San Diego State, you're probably making bank. Like, somebody who makes $350,000 a year was dumb enough to be like, hey, we're getting a divorce, but we don't want to agree to the prenup. So can y'all let that go, please? Oh, no? Okay, never mind. Sorry, I wasn't saying I was going to divorce you. I was just saying that if I go to the bar tonight and there's a really pretty girl there, then I might divorce you. And so I also don't want to pay the prenup. It's like, oh, okay, the answer is still no? All right, well, yeah, we're proud members of the Mountain West Conference. Like, they couldn't have handled that any worse. Why even put any of that in writing? Like, if you're going to try to do that, as dumb as it is, call somebody. Like, don't have a paper trail that just illustrates your stupidity to the rest of the world. That was crazy. I don't think they could have screwed that up any worse.
No, crazy. By the way, Josh Young hit his 15th home run yesterday. They're tied 4-4 in the top of the 8th. The Texas Rangers are with the White Sox.
You and I are going to the ballpark in Arlington very soon.
Very soon. 2 weeks.
To watch a 4-game sweep of the Houston Astros.
Hell yeah. Got my Astros cup here.
Charles Schwab Challenge Cup.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that San Diego State thing was a huge miss. And I guess they still think they're getting to the Pac-12 is why they sent that.
They can't.
But they can't.
They have 9 days.
Yeah.
And, like, guys, it's been a year. There's no TV deal for them to invite you to be a part of. And there's not going to be one in 9 days.
Though allegedly there's a $22.5 million deal on the table.
And if that's the case, then they're making basically 2/3 what the Big 12 is. If you want to sign that, feel free. And we'll just lap you, I guess.
And are they going to pro-rata that to San Diego State?
There's no way, right? If it's taking them this long as a collective to get Oregon, Stanford, Washington, 22.5 per, they can't add SMU and San Diego State at that rate. Like the Big 12's number, our 31.6 or 31.7 wasn't negotiated until the 4 newcomers were in, and it was understood that Texas and OU were leaving. So, and I've seen like, oh, well, if Oregon and Washington want unequal distribution, then San Diego State and SMU would come in at $10 million, and then they would give an extra 5 or 10 to Oregon and Washington. Well, it would still be, I ran the numbers on it, it would still be about $22.5 million for Utah, Cal, Colorado, and like, is Colorado going to sign up to make 70% what they would make in the Big 12? I don't know. They might just be prideful enough to do that. And like I said, if they do, great. We'll just keep lapping you and be third in revenue, or you can come join the conference. It doesn't really matter to me.
Agreed.
Screw them.
Screw them. All right, that's all I got.
Same here.
All right, I'm going to go watch the Rangers.
All right, me too. My Rangers. Love y'all.